What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Now, The Miz cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase during the TLC match between WWE Champion Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles, and as The Miz and John Morrison like to say, there are winners in life, and then there are losers. Unfortunately for The Miz, he fell into the latter category. But why did the WWE choose to have The Miz fail in his cash-in? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 12 reasons why The Miz failed in his Money in the Bank cash-in. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 1. The WWE doesn't want to rock the boat. In these troubled times, Raw's recent record low ratings, for those of you who haven't checked the news, the WWE likely doesn't want to rock the boat when it comes to its world champion. While a win by The Miz would get some attention, it would be a case of hot-shotting, which is the last thing WWE needs right now, as it figures out a long-term way to stabilize Raw's ratings and increase them. And just note, we're not certain the WWE will devise or implement a long-term plan, but we're certainly hoping it does and merely pointing out what needs to be done. Number 2, The Miz's story was all about the chase. A major part of the Money in the Bank's appeal is the idea that the holder can cash in the title at any time, a concept which creates considerable suspense. While babyfaces such as CM Punk have cashed the briefcase in out of the blue, such as he did when he defeated Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship, he also traditionally the wrestlers who cash in the briefcase after a champion has just been beat senseless, often following a hellacious title defense. This year, the WWE went with the unlikely choice of babyface Otis winning the briefcase, but made zero effort to follow up the win with anything resembling a storyline of him cashing in. As such, it became obvious that Otis was not the right person to hold the contract, and that The Miz was quickly placed into a storyline, albeit a weak one, where he weaseled his way into a match against Otis with the briefcase on the line. Once The Miz won the briefcase, the WWE was able to exploit the suspense of if and when The Miz would cash it in. As we'll see, there are a number of reasons why The Miz winning wouldn't have worked, but having him lurking in the shadows did work and was an entertaining storyline for the last several weeks. Number 3. The Miz had to get his comeuppance. There is still a number of Otis fans who felt the big man got the short end of the stick when he lost his Money in the Bank briefcase to The Miz, thus having The Miz fail in his cash-in was a way for Otis fans to get a sense of justice, particularly since the WWE separated The Miz and Otis, preventing them from wrestling each other after he won the briefcase. The Miz's cocky attitude in taking his time to climb the ladder only to have AJ Styles' bodyguards stop him only made his defeat all the much sweeter. Number 4. The Miz is no longer at the World Championship level. The Money in the Bank briefcase has helped some wrestlers make the jump to the main event with a World Championship win, including Edge and CM Punk, and in other cases, seen wrestlers win a World Championship but get little or no rub from the win, as seen by the successful cash-ins of Jack Swagger and Dolph Ziggler and their subsequent careers. While The Miz fared somewhat better than Swagger or Ziggler when he successfully cashed in his contract against Randy Orton 10 years ago, the WWE's A-lister never stuck around in the main event. Since then, he's been an upper-card wrestler at best, and as of late, a mid-carder whose main roles are providing comedy segments alongside John Morrison and competing in handicap matches with him. Putting the WWE Championship on The Miz would do nothing to elevate his career without a sustained push to go with it, which leads us to our next reason why he failed at TLC. Number 5. The WWE can't invest in The Miz right now. Could the WWE elevate The Miz to main event with a substantial push? It's a possibility, and The Miz seems perfectly suited to play the role of a cocky heel who somehow finds a way to cheat his way to victory, or at the very least, retain his championship. There are a number of opponents who could challenge The Miz for the title, including Keith Lee, Jeff Hardy, Matt Riddle, Sheamus, and Braun Strowman, depending on how the latter two are booked that week. Right now isn't the time, however, as the WWE can't gamble on The Miz when Raw's ratings have hit new lows and the promotion faces pressure from the USA Network. The WWE also can't afford to invest Raw's future in The Miz with WrestleMania coming up soon. Instead, they're investing on a sure thing. Number 6. The WWE could book The Miz vs Styles. Now, although The Miz came up short against Drew McIntyre, the WWE could get a good program out of The Miz's failed cash-in by having an irate AJ Styles blame The Miz for spoiling his chance to beat McIntyre for a third WWE Championship. The WWE doesn't do heel versus heel programs very often, but The Miz vs AJ Styles could be an entertaining program as both wrestlers are excellent workers and The Miz's mic skills could make for some entertaining promos. This could also be a good way to slowly introduce Omos into the ring, having him team with Styles against Miz and Morrison. Number 7. Setting up Styles. The Miz interfering in Styles' match and costing him a win over McIntyre, at least that's how Styles is likely to paint his loss, is also a clever way of setting up another match between the Phenomenal One and the WWE Champion. It almost seems certain that Styles will show up on Raw and whine about how he had McIntyre beat until The Miz's arrival. Styles will demand a rematch with McIntyre, something which could be a good rematch if the WWE wants to bump up Raw's ratings. Number 8. Drew couldn't lose. The WWE found itself in a difficult position tonight, as while the Miz win could have been a surprise, any benefit would have been outweighed by the harm to McIntyre's character. Drew just regained the championship, and a loss so soon after regaining it would have made him look weak. Add in his non-title loss to Roman Reigns at Survivor Series and Drew's position as a powerful babyface champion would have been jeopardized. With WrestleMania coming up soon, they need to keep Drew McIntyre booked strong, especially if he opts to go with him getting a rematch against Roman Reigns. Number 9. Making McIntyre's win even more meaningful. Now, McIntyre also benefited in that he overcame a surprise opponent. They adeptly told a story of the WWE Champion having to keep an eye out for interference from Omos, something which affected his ability to focus on an already dangerous AJ Styles. The added threat of The Miz made it even more unlikely that McIntyre could pull out a win, and yet he did. Something which made his victory all the more sweeter. Details like this are what can help a babyface look strong, and in last night's match, McIntyre looked stronger than ever. Number 10. The WWE needs a babyface champion on Raw. With Universal Champion Roman Reigns currently working as a heel on SmackDown, WWE needs a babyface champion to balance things out with its two brands. We aren't even going to entertain the idea of Miz turning face had he won the championship, as the WWE has shown on 2 different occasions that it doesn't know how to book the Miz as a babyface. They seem intent on having babyface Drew representing Raw and heel Reigns to carry SmackDown, an ideal situation should they meet again at 2021's Showcase of the Immortals. Number 11. Almost needs a good spot. As minor as it might seem, AJ Styles' bodyguard almost needed an opportunity to show that he's more than just an imposing figure at ringside. Even though Almost is still green as grass for any matchup, he should be getting involved in Styles' matches. They teased a confrontation between Drew and Omos, but wisely kept the two apart, saving the confrontation for another day. Instead, Omos helped Styles out by preventing The Miz from making what looked to be an easy climb to the top and a WWE Championship win. There's no telling what Omos' in-ring future is, but a 7'3" bodyguard should be doing more than collecting dust at ringside, so last night's spot was a good move. And number 12. There's a monster waiting. Now, another reason The Miz didn't win was because TLC was originally supposed to be Drew McIntyre versus Braun Strowman, but that is until the monster among men injured his knee, sidelining him from the pay-per-view. Although they could have had The Miz win and face off against Strowman, which makes a little sense as The Miz and Morrison failed to beat Strowman earlier this year in a handicap match when Braun held the Universal Championship, the WWE has to feel there's more money in a battle between Braun and Drew than a squash match between Miz and Strowman. As long as the strongman is healthy by January, expecting to see him challenge McIntyre for the championship at the Royal Rumble. If not, a rematch with AJ could keep things interesting for the time being. But there you have it, guys, our look at why The Miz failed to cash in his Money in the Bank contract. Now, The Miz joins Damien Sandow, John Cena, Baron Corbin and Braun Strowman as wrestlers who have failed to cash in their Money in the Bank briefcase. Were you hoping The Miz would win? Let us know in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.